Marianne here from Hooked on Homemade Happiness. Today I am going to show you how to make the Elizabeth stitch. For this stitch I am using a worsted weight yarn. I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby, but any worsted weight yarn would work just fine. And I'm using an H5mm crochet hook. Of course you can use any weight yarn that you like. You'll just need to adjust your hook size accordingly. So to get started, we're going to get our yarn on our hook. And you're going to start with a chain of an odd number. So for this swatch, I am going to chain a number of 21. So here is my starting chain of 21. Again, you can use any odd number for this stitch for your starting chain. So to start this stitch, I'm going to start in the third chain from the hook. And I always like to turn my chain over and count these back humps here. I like to do that because, one, I think that they're easier to see and crochet into. And I also like having this nice stitch for the bottom of my work. So here we're in the third chain from the hook. And in the third chain from the hook, we're going to do a mini bean stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook into this chain and yarn over and pull up a loop. So now I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into that same stitch, and then yarn over and pull up a loop. So now there are 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. And chain 1. The chain 1 is a part of the mini bean stitch. So sometimes when you read a pattern with the Elizabeth stitch, it won't say to chain 1, but maybe in the pattern notes where it describes the stitch, it'll include that chain 1 as part of this stitch. And then I'm going to skip 1 stitch and do a mini bean in the next stitch. I'm going to skip this chain and insert my hook into the next chain. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. So I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into that same stitch, and pull up another loop. So now I have 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 4 and chain 1. So I have 2 mini bean stitches for my Elizabeth stitch. So again, I'm going to skip 1 chain and work a mini bean stitch in this next chain where I will insert my hook and yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I'll yarn over, insert my hook, and yarn over and pull up a loop. I have those 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 4 and chain 1. So this is our repeat all the way across our chain. We're going to skip 1 and insert our hook into the next one and work our next mini bean stitch. So we'll insert our hook and pull up a loop, yarn over, insert into that same stitch, and pull up a loop. So now you have your 4 loops on your hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 4 and chain 1. So we have 4 mini bean stitches so far. So I'm going to repeat that again, skip 1, and work a mini bean in this next stitch. Pull up my 1 loop, yarn over and insert it again into the same stitch, and pull up another loop, and you have 4 on your hook. Pull through all 4 and chain 1. So repeat that all the way across your chain. So here I'm at my last 2 stitches of the row, so I'm going to skip 1, and I'm going to work my mini bean stitch in the very last stitch of my row. So there's my last mini bean stitch, including that chain 1. So there is row 1 completed. So now we're going to move on to row 2. And for row 2, I'm going to chain 1. So we had our chain 1 from, that's a part of our mini bean stitch from closing up that stitch. And then you'll do your chain 1 as your turning chain for the next row. So you will have 2 chains here before you turn. So I have my chain 1 and I'll turn my work. And now I'm going to be working into the side of each of these mini bean stitches across. So if you look at the stitch and you could see where there's an opening kind of right here on the side of the stitch, that's where I'm going to be inserting my hook all the way across right there and working mini bean stitches in each of those side spaces all the way across. So I'm going to insert my hook right here in that space, and I'm going to work my mini bean stitch by pulling up a loop and yarning over it, inserting my hook into that same space and yarning over and pulling up a loop. And I'm going to pull through all 4 and chain 1. So you can see you're going to kind of get like a zigzag look with the way how we're placing our mini bean stitches. So again, in this little space on the side of the stitch, I'm going to insert my hook right here and work my mini bean stitch. And again right here in this next space, insert your hook, pull up that loop, yarn over and insert it again, and pull up a loop, pull through all 4 loops on your hook and chain 1, and you'll do that all the way across. So here I've worked that mini bean stitch all the way across, and I'm to my last space. So it's right here on the side of the stitch where I'm going to insert my hook and work my last mini bean stitch. And again, I'm going to do my chain 1 to close up that stitch, and then I'm going to chain 1 as my turning chain for the next row. And I'm going to turn and repeat row 2. And that's all really there is to it for this stitch. You're just going to continue repeating that row, working a mini bean stitch into the side space, the space along the side of the stitch of the previous row. So that is all there is to it for this stitch. You're just going to continue that row 2 until your project is the length that you want. Here I'm at my last stitch, and I'm going to insert my hook along the side of this last stitch from the previous row and work my final mini bean stitch of the row, ending it with a chain 1. So I'm going to continue repeating row 2 until this project is the length that I want. I'll probably do a few more rows for this swatch so you could see what it will look like as you work further along. But it's so simple, it's really just that one row 2 repeat until it's the length that you want. Here I've worked a few more rows of the Elizabeth stitch. You can just see how beautiful it is, how it creates kind of this zigzagged puff stitch look. It creates a nice thick piece of fabric. I've used it for beanies before. I think it'd be really pretty for a baby blanket or a scarf. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and it's so easy to work up with that 1 row repeat. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this tutorial helpful for you, and we will see you next time.